Then after that, we will have a game of Kahoot, and then there will be dinner will be served, and there will be some cupcake decoration. The younger people will be competing there. So inshallah, we will do this. We have canceled tomorrow's program because of the weather. It's going to be raining and everything and cold. We have postponed it and moved it to the next Saturday, inshallah, the 13th of Rajab, which is going to happen on Tuesday. We will just, instead of doing it now, we will do it the following Saturday. So that's the plan, inshallah. Thank you. Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum. Please recite a lot salawat for Shaykh Mujtaba's health, his family's health and success. Oh, it's being broadcast, inshallah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Congratulations on the birth of Imam Al-Jawad alayhi salam and the upcoming birth of Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi afdal as-salawati wa tahiyyat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajjal farajahum. Inshallah, the hadith that I would like us to discuss in a dialogue format, so inshallah you'll also participate, is the hadith that I shared with Mu'mineen and Mu'minat, or it was shared in the message for this week from Imam Al-Jawad alayhi salam. The Imam says there are three qualities which allow the servant to attain the grace from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a special position, al-fadl min Allah. So what are these qualities? The first one, he says, to be amongst the tawwabin, repenting and returning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala frequently. The second one is to have humbleness, and that is with people, not just with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he's oft returning, and meaning always feeling guilty, asking for forgiveness. Amongst the people, he is always humble, and finally, he's very generous and often giving the charity and sadaqat. Again, these are the qualities that would help a person attain al-fadl min Allah. Before I ask you to perhaps share your perspective on this beautiful hadith from Imam Jawad alayhi salam, I wanted to ask or explain the meaning, briefly, the meaning of fadl linguistically, and inshallah I'll hear from you. But fadl comes from abundance, or basically more than the limit, above the limit. So for when you have excess of something, you call it fadl. Basically, if you have food and you have what would fill you and your family, and you have some leftover, that is, now the concept may not be, the term leftover may not be the ideal term because it may have bad connotations. Nevertheless, beyond your need, beyond what you would consume, that extra mercy, extra blessings, extra kindness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is al-fadl. So it is something to try and get and achieve. It is something that we should try and gain, to have al-fadl min Allah, fadlun min Allahi wa ni'mah. So these are the three qualities, and I want to hear from you again regarding this particular hadith from the Imam. To achieve al-fadl, you need those three qualities. So any participation, comments? No? No one? Okay, so I'll just share a few words about it, inshallah, and we'll finish this session. Again, the hadith tells us that there are three qualities that one needs to get this fadl. Fadl being a very important position that you want from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, something that we should all try and work towards and achieve. The three of them are somehow related, although it may seem separate. First is tawwabin, one who is often returning. I mentioned the term guilty. Some people, they don't like the term guilty, to have the feeling of guilt, to have the feeling that you're always short of what you should be in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have shortcomings. In fact, we have to understand that a believer in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has to be the most humble, and the most humble is that feeling of guilt. That no matter what I do little. يا من يقبل يا من يعطي الكثير بالقليل, in dua of the month of Rajab, or the one who gives a lot for a little. Don't ever think the other way around, that we are doing so much and we're receiving in accordance, or we're receiving little. It's never. We're doing so little. In fact, it's nothing. Another in Dua Makarim al-Akhlaq, Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam, he says, make me always feel like whatever I'm doing in terms of goodness, whether I'm saying or doing, to feel it's little. واستقلال الخير وإن كثر من قولي وفعلي. واستكثار الشر, even a little bit of bad, make me feel it's a lot. This is how we should feel. That a lot of good that we may do never make me feel like I've done a lot of good. No, always little. And the other way, if I'm doing something, wal'ayadu billah, we seek refuge to God, something that is bad, sinful, make me feel like it's a lot, even though it may be small. In fact, undermining sins is a great sin in itself. So that is not necessarily a bad feeling, to have that feeling of guilt in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes, in terms of psychology and how you deal with people, to have that feeling of guilt always is not a positive thing. You've done your best, you don't need to feel guilty. Whether it be a mother or a father with their children, or a spouse with their partner, or parents, or children with their parents, whichever way. That feeling of guilt is not necessarily a positive thing when it comes to our relationship with people, though in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a positive thing. So, at-tawwabin, often returning. The second one is humble. So that comes from humbleness in the court of God. And humbleness in the court amongst the people, if one is arrogant, they're more likely to be arrogant even in their relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So not being arrogant is a positive thing, in all aspects. And obviously, it leads to humbleness in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's the relationship there. And finally, the often giving charity. Being charitable, always giving, and giving a lot of charity comes from Imam Jawad alayhi salam here, the term, because he is Al-Jawad. He was very, very generous in giving, and he says this is what gives you Al-Fadl. You want to get extra from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you have to give extra. Don't give your petty change, whatever you can do with that. No, give mimma tuhibbun, what you really love and what it means something to you. When you give a contribution to a masjid, to a good cause hospital, when you give charity, whenever you give in a way that it makes you feel like it affected you financially, not that I would give what I can do easily without, and it's not nothing significant. And each to their at their level, obviously. Inshallah, that suffices. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد وآله.